Okay, we will call the meeting to order. Please rise for a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance. Madam Secretary, will you please take the roll?
Mr. Falgutor. Mr. Hurley.
Here.
Mr. Jurich.
Here.
Mr. Conacher.
Here.
Mr. Lusby.
Here.
Ms. Metzler. Mr. Norris.
Here.
Ms. Prickett. Mr. Zimmerman.
Here.
8 present, 1 absent.
Thank you very much. Item 4, approval of minutes of the Facility Committee meeting and the work session of February 10, 2025, the Policy Committee meeting, the Finance Committee meeting, and the regular meeting of February 18, 2025, and the Education Committee meeting of February 24, 2025. Need a motion?
So moved.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Moving on to visitors' comments on agenda items only. Seeing none? All right. Next on the agenda was presentations and discussions. We're going to get a budget update, but we are going to move that to old business, item 14. So, stay tuned. Any information items?
No, sir.
Treasurer's report, that the Octorara Board of School Directors approved the general fund report for period ending February 28, 2025. Need a motion?
So move.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Business Manager's report.
Yes, I'm asking for approval from the board to pay the list of bills in the amount of $2,490,388.36.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Recommended action items. Last week, we covered items A through L. This week, we have to make the following changes to item J. Christina Ruth, OHS teacher leader, 2 points, $620 each, for a total of $1,240. Mark Hess, OHS teacher leader, 2 points at $620 each, total $1,240. Rebecca Gurman, mentor Tina Hossman, 4 hours at $20.88 an hour, for a total of $83.52. John Cummings, high school varsity assistant softball coach, 6 points at $620 each, total $3,720. Lauren Brotman, middle school head softball coach, 4 points at $620 each, for a total of $2,480. Need a motion for A through L with those changes.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motions pass. M, that the Octorara Board of School Directors approve the collective bargaining agreement by and between the Octorara Area School District and the Octorara Education Association, PSEA/NEA, for the period of July 1, 2026 through June 30, 2030.
So
Need a
moved.
motion?
Second.
Any discussion? Charlie.
Charlie and Jay.
Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. N, that the,
Can we, balance the time, right?
please come to the table. Mr. Udell's going to make a statement. I wasn't quite sure how to do that.
Thank you for recognizing me. I'm here as a representative of the Octorara Area Education Association tonight. I think I figured out the other day this is the 9th contract that I've negotiated with the board in my time here, and almost certainly my last one. And I'm happy to report that we were also unanimously in approval of the contract, which was the first time in all 9 votes that I saw that I did not have a single no vote. So for the members that have been around longer, we've been through some harder times and easier times, and I've appreciated the opportunity to work with you. And all our members are excited to be moving forward, thinking only about education and not about other distracting items. So thank you very much.
I just want to thank Mr. Udell and his team. You know, labor relations are, I think, something that organizations take for granted. And when I was coming to work here, Jim Scanlon said to me, "I can tell you one group of people you don't have to worry about. It's the teachers. You have some really good teachers." And that's been my experience in 2 years here, is the dedication and the fact that the board and the association could come together in such a way to set the next, really 5 years in motion for our staff is just an incredible thing to be a part of and to watch. So I want to thank the board, and I want to thank the association for what you do every day. It's the real work of our district. It's not the things that the rest of us do. So thank you so much.
And it's a little out of order, Matt, but I think I'd be remiss if I didn't offer a perspective. Much like Adam, we've sat across the table quite a bit over the years. I don't know if I'm quite at 9, but pretty, yeah. And I want to say that it has always been a personal point of pride for me that we maintain civility and respect. And by large part, certainly this time, and even going back, even through some of the more difficult ones, I think we did a pretty good job with that almost always. And I'm very proud of that in my tenure on the board. More importantly, as Dr. Lever reiterated, going forward for the next, there's going to be a lot of changes and stresses and things like that in public education, seen and unforeseen going forward. So I think it's a good thing that our administration and those who make decisions for this board will not have to worry about that and its impact on our staff. And I think that's going to be, we're going to look back at this 3 years from now, and I think we're going to be grateful that where we're at. So thank you, guys.
Yes, thank you.
I would imagine there'll be a press or at some point. Somebody's working on that.
I just want to say I'm just so grateful we did. It is as easy as it is, and I just look out at the teachers I just see sitting right here, and I see how many of them made such a huge difference in my 2 kids' lives. And they've changed them and molded them what they are, and I'm so grateful, and I watch them grow up, and it's a big part because of you guys, and you guys changed around and made them who they are today, and I thank you very much for that.
Moving on, item N, that the Octorara Board of School Directors approve Ms. Arcele de Jesus Hernandez as an instructional assistant at the Octorara Intermediate School effective March 25, 2025, pending completion of employee-related documents required by law in the district. Ms. de Jesus Hernandez's rate will be $15 per hour for 5.75 hours per day. Need a motion?
So moved.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. O, that the Octorara Board of School Directors accept with regret the resignation of Miss Ashley Whiteman as a speech-language pathologist at the Octorara Elementary and Intermediate Schools with an effective date to be determined. Need a motion? Good, Joe. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. P, that the Octorara Board of School Directors accept the resignation of Miss Melanie DeVericos, I hope I said that right, or DeVericos, as a food service employee effective March 13, 2025. Need a motion?
So moved.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Q, that the Octorara Board of School Directors accept the resignation of Mr. Eric McCutcheon as Assistant Varsity Girls Basketball Coach at the Octorara High School effective March 10, 2025. Need a motion?
So moved.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes. R, that the Octorara Board of School Directors approve the following policies first reading. 103, discrimination/harassment affecting students. 104, discrimination/harassment affecting staff. 234, pregnant/parenting/married students. 339, uncompensated leave. 824, maintaining professional adult-student boundaries. Need a motion?
So moved.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes. S, that the Octorara Board of School Directors approve the proposal with Franklin Flooring, Inc. for the middle school vestibule at a cost of $8,352. Need a motion?
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah. Okay, so this is necessitated by some error of somebody, and that the floor, the glass is too high. By code, I'm taking it, right, an inch too high. So in order to compensate that, we're raising the floor to make up for that distance, correct? Why is whoever came up with the scope for the glass and all other stuff not on the hook for this $8,000?
I'm not saying that they're not, but in the meantime, I need to get the vestibule done before the end of this year. I'm trying to take advantage of spring rates, but we are talking with, it is the installer, not the architect, that drew up the plan, so I've got to go back to the actual contractor that did the installation work. Part of it, too, is the fact of where they take the measurements in the floor. The floor is not completely level, and in some places, it's off by 1/8 of an inch, and in other places, it's level, and in other places, it's off by 1/4 of an inch, so.
Okay, well, I appreciate the effort on that, because we've had some instances with much higher figures in repairing or replacing something in the past that I personally feel maybe should have shifted some costs elsewhere. So I'm glad to see that you're at least pursuing this, so thank you.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes. T, that the Octorara Board of School Directors approve the proposal with Spectra Electrical Construction for the high school library at a cost of $90,364.75. Need a motion?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes. That the Octorara Board of School Directors approve, that the Octorara Board of School Directors approve the proposal with Franklin Flooring, Inc. for the high school library at a cost of $14,235.44. Need a motion?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes. V, that the Octorara Board of School Directors approve the proposal with Franklin Flooring, Inc. for middle school classroom flooring at a cost of $24,369. Need a motion?
So moved.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes. W, that the Octorara Board of School Directors approve the proposal with Miller and Sons, Inc. for emergency well line replacement at a cost of $88,022.72. Need a motion? Motions and seconds all over. Any discussion? See my notes.
Somebody comes around and says, oh, they spent $90,000 for a well line. Get busted in the middle of the day.
Jill had a comment to that one.
Yeah, that's all.
All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes. X, that the Octorara Board of School Directors approve the annual fiscal audit report of the district for the year ending June 30, 2024, as prepared by the auditing firm of Herbine and Company.
So moved.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Y, that the Octorara Board of School Directors approve the Summer Kindergarten Readiness Program, which will run Monday through Thursday from July 1 to July 24, 2025, at the Octorara Primary Learning Center. Need a motion? Need a second first, and then let it rip.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, I got plenty on both Y and Z. So we're gonna need some details, folks.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so what we're approving is the concept of running this program as we have in the past. We have to be able to determine the number of students to be able to determine the number of staff. So it was a two-step process last year as well, where you approve the process and then we come back with the hiring and the costs at a later time once that whole process is run. So we can't predict exactly what it will be today because it's driven by student need. And I can talk about, you want me to talk about Z now, or since we mentioned it? So that kindergarten, yes and no. Yeah, the kindergarten program is to bring kindergartners into our school. It's it's one of the places where the greatest number of kids leave to go to charter schools, and so the things that we can do to ease that transition into the kindergarten is I think probably a wise investment for us. The summer tutoring program was something that we used to do, and it morphed over COVID into more of a summer camp program, and we need to get it back focused onto our Tier 2 and Tier 3 interventions in our high-need areas with students. So we'll put invitations out for those students, and it's much like ESY. ESY is extended school year, that's special education, so that would be the third program. And ESY students are eligible for it based on criteria set by the state. I think we get about 40% of students to take us up on that. Is that right, Cale? You want to say anything about ESY?
Sure. So our total enrollment for previous years of extended school year for students with disabilities has been roughly between 5 and 8% of our special ed population. It is mandated by IDEA and federal law. And we go through 7 criteria that's part of every IEP, every IEP of a student who is in special education, and we have to make those determinations for their qualification into the program by the end of February, and then there's a process of issuing NORUPs and waiting to hear back from families who are telling us if they intend to participate or not.
Thank you, Cale. So we'll issue invitations out to students who are Tier 2 and Tier 3 for the summer tutoring program, and then we'll come back. We have more details that I'll send to you in an update, but we probably will be at least a month until we have any idea of what the costs would be.
Go.
Is there any wisdom to vote on Y and Z after AA? Since if we realign and now we're going to impact kids in the building we're realigning to?
Um,
That's gonna affect the logistics, won't it?
No, not really. It won't impact because we had already planned any summer programs would be in the PLC. Normally, they were in the intermediate school, but we've already transitioned those to the PLC just because of the uncertainty of what realignment was going to bring.
And the other thing, I thought I was under the impression at least we were going to get some semblance of data that suggested the importance or not of the effectiveness of the summer tutoring program. So you're asking us to vote on something without data supporting it and financial to support it. Is that wise, folks? Just asking.
We're not asking you to approve the program from last year. We're asking to approve the program that we're going to do this year, which
Again,
is
with very threadbare info.
Well, there's some programs that we have to offer, right? So I would assume once we get more information on the program that's being offered, it's going to be scaled down from the past.
we can certainly provide you some data as to the rationale when we come back for more information, for sure.
I'm smidgen uncomfortable with this vote with so little information provided. I just am. I'm laying it out there.
We depend on that. Thank you, Mr. Norris.
I do want to add that the plans for tutoring this year will be aligned with curriculum we already use with students and use the measures that we use during the year with M-Class and our other measurements. So they will not, it'll be very monitored.
No, and that's important. And maybe we could have had a quick discussion item about it, conversation, and instead of just an agenda item to vote for it. It would have lowered my angst a smidgen, probably.
Good discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Z, that the Octorara Board of School Directors approve the summer tutoring program, which will run Tuesday through Thursday from July 1 to July 24, 2025, at the Octorara Primary Learning Center and at The Point. Need a motion? I guess I would have one question about if it's being at both locations. How's that? We'll find out how that's going to be handled transportation-wise.
The rationale for using the Point is they can get kids that we can't. Kids will come to the Point for the programs that they offer, and we're theorizing, it's a theory, that we can get some of our high-need kids that are willing to come to the Point, and we can deliver the same level of instruction that they might not be willing to come to the school for. So it's an attempt to get more kids that are served during the summer by the Point. Anything to add, Audrey?
Yes, the Point offers all-day programming, so parents who need that will be able to register their child for that programming. And we were not going to provide transportation. So the rationale was, because that was one of the larger expenses involved in previous programming. So offering the Point offered two different locations for parents that might be a little more convenient.
We're going to be staffing that at the Point, though?
We will be staffing the tutoring, the teachers only, for a few hours a day to offer the programming.
Another thing in our past was we used to also use local libraries to do the same thing in our tutoring program, just because of the proximity for students. So that's something that we could consider for the future as well, but we thought we would try to just do 2 points this year.
And just because I don't know what I don't know, I'm guessing having to staff multiple locations doesn't offset the cost savings of not providing transportation?
We won't know how much it costs approximately $63 an hour per teacher when you add the PSERS cost, et cetera. We won't know until we see what registration is for the program. I am not anticipating that we will need more than 8 teachers at both locations, but we'll see how many actually commit. We are also streamlining the programming, taking it to 4 weeks instead of 5. We're offering tutoring 3 days a week instead of 4 days a week. We feel that this model, because it'll be targeted to what the student performance, individual student performance, we feel that this will be more effective.
Sorry, how many days a week did you say?
It will be 3 days a week. It'll be Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday.
Gotcha, thank you.
Good discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. AA, that the Octorara Board of School Directors approve the realignment of grades 3 to 6 to include grades 3 to 5 at the Octorara Intermediate School and grade 6 at the Octorara Middle School, beginning with the 2025-2026 school year, and directs the superintendent to begin the process of reorganization with the Pennsylvania Department of Education. Need a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Since should I discuss after I vote? No? Or does it matter?
Well, discussion now.
Just discuss now. I'm gonna vote no on this just because I think there's a reason this was supposed to go next year. And I'm excited with everybody else for the hype that they want to move forward with it, and that's great. And I'm sure it'll be fine. I personally we've started some prep work with it and some information. It's just, I liken this to if I bring a contractor in, any job over 3 weeks, I'm getting a timeline of when everything should be done and in order. And that's what I'm missing right now in my brain, that most of this is gonna happen over the summer in a span of like 10 weeks. It's gonna be compressed to all the moving logistics, physical stuff, and everything that's gotta be done. And I don't know what that's gonna look like. And so I just feel I wanted to justify my vote, I think it's a good thing, I do. I'm not personally satisfied with the layout yet of how exactly this is gonna go down, but that's all.
And I share his skepticism on the rollout of the plan and the information. I mean, I've heard people suggest here in public, well, we're going to get kids to help us move, we're going to get a company. All these sort of loose ends that for a task of this size, and I just wish from a staff perspective, trying to look at it from their end, if all of their questions have been answered as far as who's responsible for what. Am I taking my milk crate of stuff into a classroom one day and it's all done and all ready, or am I tracing desks and chairs all around campus to try and get this stuff done by school opening? Those are my concerns. Educationally, I trust you guys, that's what you're going to do. I mean, it's going to be best. I share his, and maybe it's because of our background in facilities and stuff. We know stuff will go wrong, which is why, like, in our business, we never start anything on a Friday, because stuff always goes wrong. So, cross your T's and dot your I's, because it's coming, and let's make sure that as we get closer, that you continue to provide the board with how this is going to roll out. And you got my yes vote.
Thank you. We do have several plans that we've started on. One of the main things is tasks and challenges that came from the teaching ranks collected by our principals. Now the greater task will be for Mr. Domowitz and the facilities director of facilities to work through some of the finer points and what do we have to do. So it's I don't want to minimize it, but we know that there's things we have to solve for, and we've solved for the big ones, which is how are we going to run a hiring process when we're realigning. So that's a pretty extensive plan that is going to roll out tomorrow morning if this vote goes through. And then the task list that came from the teachers, and we will continue to build those because those are our concerns as well. We have to get the buildings cleaned, we have to get teachers moved, we have to get some furniture moved. It's not a small task, but we'll be able to do it.
I'll just take the opportunity to say that given the really serious facility concerns that would need an investment without it aligning with long-term goals at the OES, I mean, it just makes this a solution that I just want to say my thanks that we heard through the association a willingness from the teachers. It will be a lot of hard work on this end, and I'm just really grateful that we did hear that through the association, that teachers are willing to put that effort in, and hoping, yes, we can offer all the support that's needed to make it go as smoothly as possible. But for the benefits of less transition and just having heard from the team that's really excited about moving this alignment forward, I'm really excited about all the benefits.
Okay, good discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Moving on to item 11, Policy Committee Report. Ms. Metzler. Ms. Metzler, Policy Committee?
We met this evening at 6 o'clock in this building. Sorry, let me grab my notes. Okay. So what we had was a grouping from PSBA that was affected by Title IX going by 2020 regs. So we looked at Policy 103, discrimination, harassment affecting students. There was just minor changes of wording. A lot of the wording updates came from amendments to it was like a health amendment from the state that just updated some of the wording, but nothing major. Policy 104, discrimination, harassment affecting staff. Similar wording updates. 234, the pregnant, parenting, married students policy. There was not much there either, except just to make note of reasonable modifications for students experiencing pregnancy, parenting, and removal of some of the Title IX that didn't need to be there with this change. So 339, the uncompensated leave policy, very minor changes. 824, maintaining professional adult student boundaries. Again, just very, very small changes. So that was it for our policy meeting this evening. There had been discussion last time about some of the facility use, but we have that on the agenda tonight for old business.
Thank you. Moving on, Finance Committee report. Mr. Lusby.
Yeah, the Finance Committee met earlier this evening in this room. We went over the general fund budget to date comparison for numbers. We also had Megan Thompson here from Herbine, if I'm saying that correctly, from Herbine to do our audit report. We did have an unmodified, which is the definition of a clean audit, going over all of our finances. We discussed that our bond has been settled and the monies are going to be invested until we have a schedule of when they're going to be used. We discussed an investment strategy, a cash flow analysis to give us an idea of when monies will need to be available to spend so that we can make sure that we're maximizing our investment returns, but in a way that does not lock up, money when we need it to spend. Hopefully, I think that'll be done by the end of the month, was the estimate there. We talked about the asset management valuation that was done. It is complete. That will help us with depreciation for a tax standpoint, and then also knowing what we own and the value of what we own when it's time to unload those assets. We had a budget update tonight where we reviewed our priorities, which are optimizing staffing levels, control benefit costs, review contracts and professional services, how we can leverage technology, how we can study efficiencies, and how we can stem the tide of charter drain. And then we reviewed potential staffing needs for 25, 26 with the alignment that was just approved. And that was all I have.
Thank you very much. Moving on, CCIU Board Rep Report. Mr. Norris.
Yeah, we met back February 19th. Joe Lubitsky did a review of the budget, proposed budget for 25 and 26. It's similar to what they presented here last week. We had a presentation led for the TCHS HVAC program and how well it's doing at Brandywine, the successes they're having there. HR provided an overview of the comprehensive plan, outlining the organization's strategic goals and priorities for the period 25 to 28. We got an overview, again, similar to what we did here for us last week, on the impact of federally funded programs like Head Start, migrant education, early Head Start, 21st Century Learning Community, those types of things that are federally funded. And they also announced the replacement for Steve Gerhardt, the Assistant Executive Director. Dr. Jennifer Murray will be taking that role June 16th, replacing Steve, who will be retiring.
Thank you very much. Moving on to old business. We'll open first with the facility fee discussion.
I know it's included in your packet, but I do have a copy if anybody needs our third.
Yeah, I'll start off with this. I've had a few people have reached out to me over the past couple months about, it mainly started with the rises in fees. The one chart I have has got the old fees and the new fees for the year. So some of these fees went from $1,500 to $2,000, $2,000 to $2,500. So that sparked the question of how much money does the school see because of this chart? And what was that, 4 weeks ago, it was a little above 13,000, with still spring numbers coming in. So I kind of figured maybe 20. Yeah, okay, so 20 is a good number. Honestly, if it's 20,000, I'd like to see this chart almost go away. And here's the train of thought. It's not just like, hey, some people said something, I think we should just eliminate this and move forward. Since I've started on the board, we've had a lot of discussions around Tier 1 education. We've had a lot of discussion around test scores. We've had a lot of discussion around kids leaving for charter schools are three of the biggest things that we want to focus on as a board. So to me, it's kind of pretty simple with something like this. The lower the fees are for these programs, it's going to be more affordable to get kids to play in these programs, especially with our poverty rate too. And it's been brought up in here a bunch of times too. The more active a kid is in extracurriculars, including sports or music or whatever it is, you're gonna have a better student. So if you're gonna have a better student, students are gonna have better test scores, and those kind of students are gonna be receiving a better education if they're better in the classroom. And if a student gets a better education in his eyes, and he's more involved in programs like this that we're charging for right now, and in turn, if the kid's involved, then the family's gonna be involved, which is gonna affect the community. I believe all those factors will lead to less kids leaving for charter schools too. The more kids we can get into these programs are gonna feel more of a sense of community, they're gonna be better students, we're gonna see dividends off it on that way. So to me, the amount of money, the $20,000, after all the numbers we talk about and going over budgets and stuff, I don't think is a big number to kind of cut out for the budget for next year somewhere to add for facility use. And, I even thought for the bigger numbers, maybe do a $500 refundable deposit that they have to put down. So these programs are tied somewhat financially, a little bit, but it's a refundable $500. But for 20 grand, I think it's gonna be a huge improvement, not to mention the morality boost it's gonna give to the community and the people that run these leagues. If we say, hey, we see you and we wanna take care of you. So I think all around, that was, when I started really thinking about it, I think it's definitely worth it for the school or the district to take this on for these kids.
Okay. Well, I certainly support,
Yeah, yeah.
in theory, the problem arises with some of these usage are from people outside of the district. So we have to develop policy that incorporates a portion of that. We owe it to our shareholders, right? The people who are,
Yeah.
you know, because sometimes they still require janitorial staff or oversight, whatever. So there is some fees associated with that. Where I agree with you completely is that, you know, any program that's involving kids and our kids in particular and feeder programs, all those types of things. Yeah, I think I would really love to see a reduction in some of those things because you're right. It's not a big fee at all, total. It's I won't say it's inconsequential, but it's certainly
bigger on them than us.
Yes. And while I agree with that, so I think we have to figure out a way to develop policy that is fair to all the stakeholders. And I don't know if it's a percentage, like say we kept our flat fee. Let's say, you know, pick a number, $1,000, whatever it is. And if 70% of those kids are Octorara kids, it's 70% off of that.
And
I don't know. I'm just brainstorming here.
Just to clarify, I'm not saying this is like open season for anybody.
Yeah.
Like whoever schedules all this is, I don't know if it's EAD, then he's got to be able to say no, because then otherwise other people can come in and be like, hey, we want an open gym.
That's the concern that I have, is
Well,
that
then we just have to say no.
well, we're asking our people to adjudicate these things.
Yeah.
Which puts us in a tough position. We have, you know, the way we have our board policy where we have groups, and we can argue about the groups, but, you know, there's groups that are coming in, and we're now gonna have to determine whether there's some benefit to Octorara kids. So there's an event here that you and I exchanged text messages over. Is that an event that takes place and we don't charge for? Because there are certainly Octorara kids there. So I don't, and we have full-time custodians that are here at night because we have these things. And so it's not without cost. You know, we have costs for our own programs, but we also have costs for the others. You know, there's things on fields. So the only thing I want to guard against is creating a situation that's really untenable for our athletics and activities office, where they're having to pick and choose. And we even with what we have in the policy, there's groups that argue that they're not in the right classification. And so the only thing I would want to guard against is making that worse.
Have your staff brainstormed maybe thinking outside of the box things at all since this discussion came up? Have you tried to develop anything substantive that?
No, we haven't.
Roots?
We didn't. This conversation would be the first conversation. And then with this conversation, then I would go back, because I didn't know where this was going. I don't know what we're really exploring. I don't know what the ramifications are. I gave you $20,000. I didn't see anything in the auditorium, so I didn't see the Nutcracker. I know that's one that was in there. So it's all how things get coded, which is part of what Herbine helps us with, is you guys can code things differently, and then it'll be a little easier on yourself. So, I think it's a worthy discussion, because so much of what you said I agree with. If we could get kids involved in things, it translates into better results for us, and it makes them happier kids. But I want to be really careful about who we're picking and choosing, and if we're just opening the facility for everybody, there's a real cost to that, especially if there's no cost, because that's just going to bring more people to the facility.
Yeah, I think this was, this appendix came out of a field committee task force when the football field was built. So back when the football field was built, everybody wanted to use it. Well, they were treating, up till the football field was built, they were treating the football field like a parking lot median. They were mowing grass. They weren't doing anything to maintain the field. And we had an event, a huge rain event, and it washed out the field. It killed the field. So we didn't want people using the new field
But
and,
that's what, I'm not saying, this is not a free-for-all. This is, we have somebody who, I don't think it's the fees that are holding other, we're not gonna get a bunch of other people trying to come in and be like, oh, Octorara's free, we can just go use the field.
Yeah.
There's still a process to it, though.
So my understanding was that there
Like,
is
yeah.
a part on the application to use it. Isn't there a spot for the waiver? I wish I had that in front of me, but I thought I, so,
The application has a
What-
section to request a waiver.
okay, so that's where I thought we had a good process, but I guess I don't know how that has run in the past. Does that come, who does that go, who approves those requests for a waiver?
I think those, they don't, I don't know that I've seen one. I don't know that, I know that I've waived them, which is just when it comes in, I just tell them, like, there's a community group that's using, they're not requiring anything. I allowed them to come in for their hour-long meeting and not give us the, I think, $250 that it was going. But that's something I do with any group that's, when we're not incurring a cost, and we can truly tie it to, but that's not very often that I'm involved at that level. So I don't really know.
I think what we need to really define is what a feeder program is like youth wrestling, youth football, Little League, girls softball, figure out what really is a feeder program for Octorara, if that's Octorara kids. Like Little League, they don't need our fields, but that's like the perfect example of that's a feeder program. Or soccer, youth soccer, or something like that. If we can figure out, nail down exactly what a feeder program is, and definitely if it's for-profit, there's a cost. I mean, that's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. I'm not sure if that's even easy to do.
Part of the discussion, or part of the hard part for me is what some people call a feeder program. Like, my kids played soccer, but on that Octorara Soccer Club, there was kids from Pequay, there was kids from Solanco, who, yeah, were on the team and they played, but when they got to of age, they went to their team. So it's hard to draw the line, but I think to help our athletic director, to have a policy that is in place so that somebody doesn't call him and say, well, you let this guy use it last week, now you're charging me. Like, we gotta have something in place to protect our own employees from getting harassed. And there's a cost to these things. There's a cost to custodial and cleanup and maintenance. And if it's free, and people don't really care that it costs a little bit, maybe they don't treat it as nice. So, not to use that as a deterrent, but I'm in favor of, this chart. It can be interpreted many ways, but I think we gotta have something in place to protect the district. That's my 2 cents.
And that's fine. Then I'll at least just end with this, because I feel like I'm miscommunicating this then badly. But these numbers are too high. I think you're discouraging kids from coming out because these leagues have to pay these numbers. And you can identify feeder systems, school systems, whatever. But those numbers, I mean, $2,500. You need 25 kids at $100 a kid just to cover that cost. I'll just say then, they're too high. Then that's my final thing. We can identify how we want to identify feeder and stuff like that. I don't think I'm in the boat. I'm not saying, like I said, it's not a free-for-all. We still have to have somebody here that can say no. And if someone gets mad because he said no, well then, get over it. Somebody said no to you. Okay? We have our leagues where the kids play soccer, and the majority of them come to Octorara. We have our leagues where the kids play football, which we don't get enough kids with, so now they're merging with Pequay. Okay? If I'm miscommunicating, I'm sorry. I'll just end with those numbers are too high.
The part that I would want to say publicly is that waiver aspect, and there's a lot that I don't know about it. I don't know how many we're getting, but if we're not getting many, I would just want to publicly encourage anybody, if they feel like their program should qualify, to bring it before the board. I think you're hearing that there's, desire from the board to support our local participants, and so, even if there's a way to somehow request a waiver for part of a program that's maybe the intramural and leave out the travel parts or something. I'm not sure what all the possibilities are with that, but I feel like that's our loophole to keep a structure in place that protects the district, but gives the opportunities that we want to give to our Octorara students.
It's a question that's running through my mind is how much of an outlier are we? Because I really don't think we are. I don't think we're an outlier. I think that, I mean, I was president of a Little League. We paid an exorbitant amount of money to use the fields because we didn't have to maintain the fields. I know that when they brought in Diamond Tex, it was about 20 grand to do that. And we have, Scott, we just had a quote for Diamond Tex. Wasn't it about 50 grand for the field we want to modify? $50,000 for dirt. And so we incur those costs, and we're doing it on the taxpayer dime. And in part, these fees just go back into cover. But I mean, we're going to put a screen, we're talking about a screen along Route 41. I think we're probably going to spend $30,000. And that's, you know, again, to protect, it's something we have to do, but, you know, we do have costs for these. So I'm kind of agnostic on what we do. I don't want to see our people having something that's not defendable. I think it would be a mistake for the board to just make a decision without probably digging deeper with our athletic department. If we wanted to set up a subgroup and 3 board members were willing to come and sit with Greg and some other representatives, maybe so people from Booster Club, just to kind of look at the situation, I think we could probably do that and collect more information, but that would be a board decision to do that.
Yeah, the thing that I think, Charlie, maybe it was part of what you were alluding to, like we just had that not that long ago where they analyzed all of our field usage and stuff like that, and like our fields are grossly overused. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but it's a bad thing when it comes to maintaining the quality of the fields and everything. And so that's one of the reasons why in that proposal they're recommending turf and different things and a lot of, you know, expenditures. And so it's a fine line to make it affordable and still be able to have something that's nice and that people want to use. So like I think maybe, you know, some kind of a subcommittee would be a good idea. I don't know. I'm also like, maybe I'm just a pessimist by nature sometimes, but I wonder if we reduce the fees, like, do the kids really see the reduction? I hope they would, but I doubt it,
Well,
unfortunately. You know what I mean?
You give it two.
Yeah. Yeah. But to like everything that you said is true in the sense of we want kids to participate. We want you know what I mean? Like all that's true. And so it's finding that fine line to where we can make all of those things happen, I think is the challenge.
There's also different associations or different leagues have done services in kind. For instance, I know the Little League, when I was a part of it, would provide Diamantex in kind. So say that $2,500 would be a quarter of a load of Diamantex. That's per season, 3 to 5 days a week. That covers your season. So is that really that high for a Little League that makes that in the concession stand in a month? I don't think it is.
What about the other, like the non-sports related users? For fundraisers, you know, I believe there's bingos and things like that that are held out on our campus for the library or whomever. I don't know how you incorporate those types of usage fees when you're, you know, because it's, you know, they're a nonprofit. They don't. It's difficult. You know, it's difficult to establish areas that don't have a lot of gray in them, I would think, for Greg or whomever to sort of legislate. Yeah, I'd be in favor of, you know, obviously it's Dan, whoever wants to sit on that, and maybe Greg and a couple other things. Maybe we can create and do a little solicitation of some districts, find, okay, where are our fees now? I know we haven't looked at them in a while. Let's see where we're at versus some of our school districts around us. And, you know, maybe that would guide us somewhat. With, yeah.
That's what I did.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and Octorara came out with that, and Jay brought it up as well. The use, the field use events, they called them, and they basically did a conservative estimate on the events and showed that we were way over on the use of our fields, and that's not good long-term. I mean, it's much easier to do a synthetic field because you can do more events on it, and I know that was brought up, and that's part of the plan, I think, eventually. But, I mean, until that point, this is the system we currently have.
I just want to, for clarification, our policy meeting in February 18, discussed, it's policy 707, that's the use of school facilities, and that does have the groupings that you're talking about, and I thought just a key defining factor, like you said, there can be gray area, but like asking, does this organization accept a fee for use, or accept a fee for the program, that's kind of defining on if they pay based on this fee schedule or not. And I thought Charlie made a good point that, you know, there's some that have the travel involved. You know, we said, well, intramurals is still all Octorara, that kind of thing, but, you know, once you get involved in them charging travel costs and things like that, it makes sense to me to factor that in, and that's a way to draw a line where there can be a lot of gray, but, so if you have something like a blood drive, they're not charging a fee, so then they have a different, I just wanted to clarify that.
Maybe what we can do is, if there are 3 board members who are willing to, I think it's 3, who are willing to, you know, sit and pull that subcommittee together, they can talk to AD and whoever else, and we can certainly investigate it. Bring a report back. Is there 3 volunteers tonight, or 1, 2? I'll send something out in case Tony wants to volunteer to get you 3. How's that?
Dude, let's just volunteer him. He's not here, so. No, I'm just-
Okay. So we have 3 volunteers to look into it and then report back at a policy committee meeting, because it affects a policy. Okay. I'll summarize something and send it out. Thank you. All right. Moving on to board update.
This is, just wanted to give the community a bit of an update on where we are in our budget process. The budget process never really ends. As soon as we pass one in June, we're starting the next one the next year. And so these budget priorities are something that really kind of transcend years. But we look to optimize our staffing levels. We want to study our cost per pupil factors to see if we can impact those from year to year. We want to try to control benefits costs. That's a lot of hard work that's done by Scott Domowitz's office, our CFO, as he looks at, you know, various contractors, and it's a big deal to change, but sometimes there's significant costs associated. We review contracts and professional services. We just had one today. It's a small amount of money, but by changing one of our electronic vendors, we save half the money of what we're paying on a current one. It's not a lot of money, but if you have 10 of those in a year, it starts to add up. We want to leverage technology. We're doing that. We're in the painful stage of that now, moving our finance system and our HR system. Ultimately, that we're going to realize a pretty significant savings in that, but it won't be until next year that we see that. We continue to study efficiencies. How can we do things a little bit better? How can we do more with the resources that we have? And then there's the ever-present question of kids who are going to charter school. Why are they going, and how can we draw them back to the great programs that we have going here? We go into the budget season with certain assumptions, which is increases that we just assume are going to take place, and we build those in. Generally, those are fairly conservative this year. I don't think we're going to experience anything that's going to surpass those. I don't know about unemployment insurance, disability insurance. Do we have any numbers at this point, Scott? Totally put you on the spot, sorry. No, we don't. But we start the budget season with these assumptions. This graph shows a history since 2018 of what I would say is fiscal responsibility. The blue line being our expenses and the orange line being our revenues. We try to be good stewards of the money that we have because we have it budgeted. Doesn't mean we always spend it. It means we budget for what we think we need, and then we look for efficiencies that let us finish the year with some type of surplus, which we then move into our reserves for construction or for future rainy days. This is the budget that this is the current proposal, moving from a $63,500,000 budget to $65,480. What do we account for the increases? There's inflationary pressures. We know that our costs are going up about 3.3% each year, and so we have to build in for that. But we also anticipate revenues that are going to match this. These are conservative estimates. Tax revenue is a number of different areas. Scott, what are all the areas of, sorry, Scott, calling you out again. Scott Domowitz. What are all of our areas of tax revenue? Microphone, please.
So we're going to see and these are all conservative numbers, and just an increase in tax revenue. Tax revenue includes our real estate taxes, our PERTA, our transfer taxes, our Act 511 and taxes. All those combined, we're looking at $285,305 increase over what we anticipate we will have collected by the end of this fiscal year. Pass-throughs, that includes IDEA and Access. Those programs we have looked at and are more actively requesting reimbursement for our expenses. That's something that we didn't do efficiently in previous years. So we're looking to see an increase of $250,000 there. Grant procurements, we're only, in this budget, in this fiscal year, there was $0 budgeted for grants. Year to date, we have raised over $2 million in grant funding. So just a $500,000 increase for next year, going from 0 to 500,000, is a very conservative number. Same thing with investments. We're looking at a $500,000 increase in our revenue from investments. Again, we saw over $2.1 million in interest earned last year. So again, a very conservative number. State revenue, this is basically from the governor's proposed budget. Again, conservatively, we're looking at $239,945. Federal revenue is based on what we anticipate from our titles. It only looks like about a $30,000 increase there. So overall, it's $1.9 million increase in our budget from revenues, which balances out with our expenses.
Yeah, and the tax revenue, those are all through real estate appraisals, and we're not anticipating currently. It could change in a month, but we're not currently anticipating any millage increases for the year. So those revenues are revenues that are coming because of increased appraisals and other types of taxes. Correct?
Yeah, that's correct. It's also coming from Keystone Collections being more efficient in collecting delinquent taxes for us.
Yeah, they do better than we ever did.
Yes.
Yes. Our current millage, our millage rate is shown here in Chester County, 42.54, and Lancaster, 25.63. If we were to raise our taxes by 1 mil, equivalent of 1 mil in each of the two counties, it would generate just over $1 million of revenue to the district. And so you can see that just in our anticipated, from the last slide, what we're anticipating from other revenue streams, it's almost 2 times what a millage increase would give us. Those projections that Mr. Domowitz has made, they're pretty conservative, and that's borne itself out for the next couple of years. If we had something dramatic happen in the economy, those could fall short. But I don't know. There's a lot of room there for us to be assured that the revenues that we're projecting are probably going to be close. We've identified a number of needs for this year. this coming year. We're going to need an additional autistic support classroom at our primary learning center. This is due to the fact of students that are coming in. They come out of early intervention, and so we have a good idea of what their needs are. We also have a need for some additional mental health, in particular at the PLC, and we're exploring a number of options for how we might do that. We hired a district social worker, our first district social worker, 2 years ago, and it has proven to be a very effective position for as a liaison between our families and the school. And what a social worker does is they help families connect to agencies. They help with habitual truancy and parents who are struggling to get kids to come to school. And so there's a lot of relationship building and helping families navigate systems. And so we have found that position to be so valuable, we would like to add another one to work with either the elementary or the secondary. Our middle school transition, we always knew was going to be a little bit heavy on staffing because it's what we do in a junior high is less labor intensive than what we do in a middle school because of what middle school needs are. So adding a grade to bringing sixth grade into 7 and 8, we're going to need to add a physical education teacher. You want to clap? You want to clap for that? A couple of science teachers because science is not taught as a full subject in the elementary school. It's more one teacher who teaches it, and so we need a little more staffing there, and then a social studies teacher as well. We have a speech person that is not completely full-time. We want to move that one to full-time due to increased caseload, and then in the high school, because we're the splitting of the middle school and the high school, we're in need of a social studies teacher to maintain present levels there. The summary of costs, we're able to cover many of those things through realignment, thanks to the board's decision tonight. But we do project a cost of about $309,000 to add for the staff that we can't cover in realignment. $309,000 is an estimate. We know like the bottom two, that's a little closer to accurate. The social studies positions, they could be a little bit more, a little bit less. We have a budget timeline. This is the last kind of main update before April, where we will give a preliminary budget to the board for them to consider. It could still change into May when they approve the preliminary budget, and then in June, that preliminary budget, the board will send that to the public for a 20-day inspection period, which is required by the state for a final adoption then later in the month in June. So that is my budget update. This month we will be finalizing staffing and gathering additional realignment data for budget.
All right, thank you very much. Any new business?
No.
No. Other items and announcements? No.
I think so. Anything from our student representative? You want to go? We can put you in there for other items and announcements.
I have just two things. Mr. Falgator, at the end of the last time I was here for a meeting, he asked me if any students ever came up to me and asked me to bring things up to the board, and no, but I have been looking at things that students and teachers and parents have been saying over the past month or so, and two things really stand out. The first is schedules. The way the schedules are now, most students that I know do not have room in their schedules for study halls, and it's also causing a lot of electives to get cut. I know just in this meeting we cut like 10 electives, and if you're talking about like what helps students out, I think electives is something really big. We were talking about music and athletics. Our music programs are electives, and I know a lot of students that have dropped band and chorus because they don't have the room in their schedules to get the credits that they need. And when we got rid of the drop schedule, getting rid of a whole period, it doesn't seem like a lot, but 4 credits over the course of your high school career. That could be like 8 classes if you split it up right. So just the way that we have it now, I think that's something to really look at, because I do think it's taking a toll on students not having these study halls, not having options to take classes that they would like to take. And I don't know, obviously there was a reason that the drop schedule was gotten rid of, but there has to be other options. Like, I know Downingtown has an extended lunch period where they allow students to meet with teachers to have time to study. I know Coatesville has a designated win period where kids are allowed to have just a study hall and time to talk to teachers. So I don't know what the best option is, but definitely something to look at. And then the other thing I have is the bathrooms. Students really do not like using the bathrooms. And I know that high school bathrooms are never going to be like perfectly clean and perfectly whatever, but students are constantly vaping in them. They're eating lunch in the bathrooms, hanging out in the bathrooms, and nobody wants to use the bathrooms. I know a lot of times they're locked. When I have to use the bathroom in band, I have to go to the other side of the school to use the bathroom, and that's cutting into class time. And I don't know how to get kids out of there who are eating lunch or vaping, but maybe looking at what's keeping them out of the classroom and causing them to skip school, staying in the bathrooms, what's keeping them out of the lunchroom and deciding to eat lunch in the bathrooms. I know there's schools where you can go off campus for lunch. I know there's schools where you can go to the library during lunch periods. I just think exploring things like that might be a good idea to keep everybody happy. And I think those are things that if we fix, students will really notice.
Thank you. Visitors' comments in general. Are there any visitors' comments? Seeing none. Administrator comments or announcements? Turn it over to...
Just a few things. First, want to shout out to the cast, crew, and creative team of Shrek the Musical. I know firsthand the work and time and effort that goes into that kind of show. It was a really fun weekend. Audience and kids alike had a great time. We have 2 concerts coming up. This Wednesday night is our band concert. If you show up, you might see a guest performer named JT Fryer there. And then next Wednesday evening is our chorus concert. JT Fryer will not be a guest performer at that one. Spring sports are in full swing. High school started the past few weeks. Middle school sports start this week. Kind of 2 things. We talked about vaping in the bathrooms. We had 2 weeks ago a anti-vaping presentation given by Selena Morezzi from the Karen Foundation. It was also a way to kind of test our broadcasting capabilities of our new Vivi system. So Selena came up, set herself up in the high school main office, and was able to broadcast to every single Vivi TV from grades 7 to 12 with 2 or 3 technical difficulties. So we're pretty proud about that. And also the message that Selena gave to our kids, even if it causes 2 or 3 hesitations, consider that a win. And finally, the high school admin have organized 2 college campus visits for current students. On March 27th, we're taking a group of students to Delaware County Community College, and among those will be our ELL students. They have a pretty good program on the media campus there. And then April 10th, we'll be taking a handful of students to Westchester University as well.
Just briefly, I want to thank the board for their support for the realignment tonight. I'm excited to have the 6th grade, 7th and 8th grade form together to build a world-class middle school that the children deserve. I look forward to coming back to the board and providing updates along the way in the process, and certainly in celebrating once we open up next year. So thank you for your support.
A couple weeks ago, I gave congratulations to Jeff Curtis, our former business manager, for the work that he did in paving the way for the success that we're having today. But tonight, I want to thank Scott Domowitz, our business manager, chief financial officer. He's very quiet and unassuming, but he gets stuff done in an amazing way. He finds how we can take the resources that we have and stretch them a little bit further. He brought us the idea of hiring a grant writer, which has brought in significant amounts of money. 2 times, it would be the equivalent of 2 millage points brought into the district through just creativity and seeking funding. He accomplishes an enormous amount. I was talking with a teacher late last week, and she was commenting on almost the day that Mr. Domowitz arrived, the differences that she started to notice. The cosmetic things. I hear it from students. Water tower getting painted. The little things that our students notice and are taking the time to actually talk to adults about. And so much of that is the work of Mr. Domowitz. He gets stuff done. He finds a way to creatively pay for things. He tracks down insurance companies to remit money to us when something has gone wrong. He just never seems to stop, and I'm grateful for the work that he does. We have a great financial report that was delivered during the finance meeting, where we again have shown ourselves to be really fiscally, I think fiscally responsible with all the things that we're attempting to do. And so I just want to publicly thank Scott for the work that he does. Thank you, Scott.
Any board comments? Board comments? Board? No? Okay, moving on. I will announce the following meetings. Policy and Finance Committee meeting was tonight, Monday, March 17, 2025, 6 p.m. in the middle school multi-purpose room. Executive session for personnel, Monday, March 17, 2025, after the regular meeting in room 102 at the middle school. Education Committee meeting, Monday, March 24, 2025, 6 p.m. in the middle school hub. Facility Committee meeting, Monday, April 14th, 2025, 6 p.m. in the middle school multi-purpose room. Next regularly scheduled work session, Monday, April 14, 2025, 7 p.m. in the middle school multi-purpose room. Policy and Finance Committee meetings, Tuesday, April 22nd, 2025, 6 p.m. in the middle school multi-purpose room. Next regularly scheduled board meeting, Tuesday, April 22nd, 2025, 7 p.m. in the middle school multi-purpose room. Education Committee meeting, Monday, April 28, 2025, 6 p.m. in the middle school hub. And with that, we need a motion to adjourn. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.